If you're watching this video, you've probably seen at least a few episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. You may have even heard of or seen the original OVA. But what you might not know is that at one point, the Jojo OVA nearly caused an international boycott of Japan. If you aren't familiar, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a series following the bloodline of the Joestar family. Arguably, the most popular part of the series is Part 3, Stardust Crusaders. After the manga concluded in April 1992, the studios Another Pushpin Planning and Clockworks came together to produce a short OVA consisting of 6 episodes. Releasing from November 19, 1993 to November 18, 1994, this series covered the latter half of the manga commonly known as the Egypt arc. 6 years after the final episode aired, the two studios returned to finish the first half of Stardust Crusaders, running from May 5, 2000 to January 25, 2002. Later that year, the American publisher for Another Pushpin Planning, Super Techno Arts, went to conventions to promote the US release of the series. There, they showcased subtitled episodes of the show and gave away copies of a promo VHS tape featuring interviews and making-of featurettes. Originally, a first volume DVD was announced for mid to late 2002, but after many delays, it eventually released on June 10, 2003, with the final DVD being released 2 years later on October 25, 2005. Now you might be wondering why a studio would decide to animate the second arc of a series first. Some believe that the studio was under the impression that Japan was already familiar with JoJo. While to some extent that might have been true, interviews with the creator Araki Hirohiko and animation director Junichi Hayama at the time helped paint a broader picture of their motivations. The promo VHS tape given away by Super Techno Arts included, among other things, an interview where Araki is asked about his impressions of the OVA so far. In his answer, he described how he wrote Stardust Crusaders in a short story style, and because of this, he asked the studio to pick the parts that interested them the most so that they could create a more exciting experience for the fans. In an interview included on the second English DVD release, Junichi Hayama elaborated more on this, saying that during the planning phases of the series, they realized that they couldn't fit everything in just 6 episodes. This led them to decide on the Egypt arc as it was more exciting overall. Hayama and producer Kazufumi Nomura were originally unsure if they were going to be able to do the full series at all, but after feedback, they realized the story was hard to understand for first-time viewers. So after nearly 7 years, they decided to go back and do the first half. This part of the story begins with a website called animedown.tv. At some point around March 2007, they began hosting episodes of the OVA translated into Arabic. These went relatively under the radar until June 18, 2007, when user AI Chan made a post on the MS-OMS anime forum. To the best of my understanding, he mentions how cool and exciting the series is, but is surprised to have found a scene from episode 6 featuring a page of the Quran. Overall, the commenters seem understanding that this scene requires context before getting angry, some even explaining that it isn't entirely out of place considering how the show takes place in Egypt. A year later, on May 14, 2008, it was reported by Anime News Network that the Super Techno Arts website had been taken down, and that sales of the JoJo OVA had been halted due to an unspecified issue. A few days later, on the 22nd, many sites all over the world reported on a letter of apology issued by Shueisha and Another Pushpin Planning. This apology, written in Arabic, Japanese, and English, explains that they reviewed the content of the episode and found out that it was a mistake, as the animator did not know how to read Arabic. They further explain that the original manga did not include any pages from the Quran, and that they will continue to review the anime and manga for any further inappropriate scenes, noting that the manga did in fact include a mosque in a fight scene. Furthermore, they announced the cancellation of all sales of the DVDs and relevant manga until their investigation is done. It seems they followed through because at least in the US, the OVA has never been reprinted, and sales of the Part 3 manga were halted for nearly an entire year until certain scenes were redrawn. Finally, they end the apology with a statement that they believe certain reports have been misleading, claiming that the anime depicts Muslims as terrorists and evil persons. The same forum that initially brought the issue to light also has posts about the apology, with most being thankful and understanding. Some, though, were skeptical of the idea that a major company would be so naive, with one claiming that the apology was only done out of fear that a Muslim boycott could cost them their entire company. That being said, fear wouldn't be completely unfounded given previous controversies and statements made around the time. On May 23rd, the Japan Times released an article further detailing the controversy, saying that some fear that this could become bigger than the time cartoons were published of the Prophet Muhammad. This is in reference to 12 cartoons printed by Jyllands Posten on September 30th, 2005, which led to many attacks, bombings, protests, and boycotts of Danish goods, reportedly costing the country millions of dollars. With one of the cartoonists, Kurt Westergaard, being put under constant police supervision due to the many active threats on his life as recently as 2013. The article also mentions that a member of the Al-Azhar University and Mosque claims that the scene depicts Muslims as terrorists and that the producers should be considered enemies of Islam, with another mentioning that there should be a similar boycott of Japanese products unless direct action is taken. Japan in particular had a similar event, where Hitoshi Igarashi, a Japanese translator of the Book of Satanic Verses, was murdered outside of his office after a bounty was placed for the death of anyone involved in the publication. If Shueisha's apology was indeed provoked by fear, given the circumstances surrounding similar controversies, I would not blame them. But in any case, it was nice to see that overall, the actual anime community was understanding about this issue. So hopefully, someday, we can get at least a new revised edition of the OVA. Thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, please click the like, and comment if I might have missed anything. And while you're here, subscribe to stay tuned for my future videos, as I might have one in the works on another project that might have died due to the same controversy.